Commander Kexthara's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as she gazed down at the blue-green marbles spinning lazily beneath their mothership. Earth hung in space like a jewel, beautiful and utterly silent. The massive Zephyrian vessel, 3 kilometers long and bristling with sensor arrays, maintained its orbit with the precision of a predator circling its prey. "Initial scans complete, Commander," reported a science officer, Veltan, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence across his elongated skull. "No electromagnetic signatures. No thermal anomalies consistent with active technology. The species appears to have achieved total extinction approximately 57 rotations ago." Kexthara nodded, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the bridge's bioluminescent panels. Another dead world. Another failed species to catalog in the Empire's vast archives. The humans had shown promise once. Their radio signals had reached Zephyrian space nearly 2 centuries ago, full of music and voices and desperate attempts at contact. But like so many others, they had burned too bright and flamed out before achieving true interstellar capability. "Begin standard archaeological protocols," she commanded. "I want atmospheric samples, genetic material from the major population centers, and a complete technological assessment. The historians will want detailed records of their final decades." The bridge buzzed with activity as her crew initiated the procedures they had performed countless times before. Probe ships detached from the mothership's docking bays like spores, spiraling down toward Earth's surface. Their mission was simple: document, catalog, preserve what little remained of humanity's brief existence. Kexthara moved to the observation deck, her clawed feet clicking against the organic metal flooring. Through the massive viewport, she could see the probe ships disappearing into Earth's atmosphere, leaving thin trails of ionized particles in their wake. The planet's surface showed the telltale signs of ecological collapse: dead oceans, withered continents, the geometric scars of abandoned cities. "Commander," Veltan's voice carried an odd harmonic. "We're detecting some anomalous reading from Sector 7. High concentrations of preserved organic matter in what appears to be underground facilities." "Bunkers," Kexthara mused. "They always build bunkers at the end. Did they preserve genetic samples? Cultural artifacts?" "Unknown. The sites appear to have been sealed with some form of energy barrier. Our probes cannot penetrate." "Interesting. Most species simply huddle together in their final moments, telling stories to comfort themselves as their world died around them. But these humans had been different. They had fought extinction with the same fierce determination that had driven them to split atoms and touch their moon. "Deploy the excavation drones," she ordered, "and prepare a cultural analysis team. If they left something behind, we need to—" The lights flickered. For a moment, the bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. Then every communication array on the ship screamed to life at once. "Hello? Is anyone out there? Please, I know you're listening. I can hear your engines." The voice was weak, distorted by static, but unmistakably organic. And it was speaking the primary human language, English, according to their linguistic databases. Kexthara's primary heart skipped a beat. Veltan traced that signal immediately. "Commander, that's impossible. The signal is coming from inside our ship." The bridge fell deadly quiet. Every member of her crew turned to stare at the communication console, its bio-neural matrices pulsing with confused patterns of light. "Please," the voice continued, stronger now. "I know this is hard to believe, but my name is Sarah Chen. I'm human, and I'm somewhere on your ship." Kexthara felt her secondary hearts racing. In 3 decades of commanding deep space archaeological missions, she had never encountered anything like this. The scanners showed no life forms aboard except her crew. The ship's biosecurity systems would have detected any unauthorized organism the moment it came aboard. "Check the manifest of everything we brought up from the surface," she barked. "Every sample, every artifact, every speck of dust." Veltan's manipulator appendages danced across his console. "Nothing, Commander. All collection protocols have been standard. No organic material has been transported to the ship." The voice crackled again, and this time Kexthara heard something that made her blood run cold. Hope. Desperate, fierce hope that should have been impossible for a member of an extinct species. "I don't know how I got here," Sarah Chen continued. "The last thing I remember was a final day. The sky was orange, and the air tasted like metal. We knew it was over. We knew we had failed. But somehow, I'm here now. And I'm not alone. Not alone. Kexthara whispered. There are others, hidden in the spaces between your walls, in the places your senses can't reach. We've been waiting for you to come. We've been preparing. The lights flickered again, and this time they stayed dim. Emergency protocols engaged automatically, bathing the bridge in red warning lights. Throughout the ship, Kexthara could hear the distant sound of bulkhead sealing, the security systems activating. Commander Veltan's voice was tight with fear. Bioscanners are detecting movement in the lower decks. Multiple contacts, but they don't match any known life signs. It's like they're there, but not there. Kexthara gripped the railing of the observation deck so hard her claws left scratches in the metal. Below them, Earth continued its slow rotation, beautiful and silent and supposedly empty of all human life. Sarah Chen, she said aloud, knowing the ship's communication system would carry her words. If you can hear me, identify yourself. What is your species number? Your planet of origin? Static filled the bridge for long moments. Then Sarah's voice returned, and in it Kexthara heard something that chilled her to her core, laughter. The hunt began immediately. Kexthara divided her crew into search teams, each equipped with enhanced bioscanners and neural disruptors. The mothership's corridors, normally filled with the quiet efficiency of scientific work, now echoed with the sound of boots on metal and the word detection equipment. Deck by deck, Kexthara ordered through her comm unit as she led the primary team through the ship's central spine. Whatever these humans are, wherever they are hiding, we find them. The ship felt different now, as if the very air had changed composition. Shadows seemed deeper, and the bioluminescent panels cast strange patterns on the walls. Kexthara's team moved in formation, their weapons trained on empty corridors that suddenly felt full of unseen watchers. Commander, came Veltan's voice through static-laden communications. Something's interfering with our internal sensors. It's like there's a dampening field moving through the ship, but we can't locate its source. Kexthara paused at a junction between corridors. To her left lay the genetics laboratory where they had planned to process Earth samples. To her right, the cultural archive bay where human artifacts would have been stored and studied. Both passages stretched into darkness that their lights couldn't fully penetrate. Sarah Chen, she called out, show yourself. Explain how you came to be on my ship. Her voice echoed back from the walls, distorted and hollow. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Sarah's voice emerged from the ship's communication system, but this time it seemed to come from everywhere at once. You really want to know, Commander? Then let me tell you about the last day. The lights dimmed further, and suddenly the air around them shimmered. Images began to form in the space before Kexthara's team, translucent, ghostly, but unmistakably real. They showed Earth as it had been in its final hours, a dying world wrapped in toxic clouds, its oceans boiling, its cities empty except for the scattered remains of a civilization that had run out of time. We knew you were coming. Sarah's voice continued as the images shifted to show massive underground facilities carved deep into bedrock. Your probe ships had been watching us for decades. We intercepted your transmissions, learned your language, studied your technology. We knew that when we died, you would come to catalog our extinction. The ghostly images showed humans in environmental suits working frantically in the underground chambers. They were building something, complex machinery that pulsed with energy patterns Kexthara didn't recognize. We couldn't save our world, but we could save ourselves. Not our bodies. Those were already failing from the radiation and toxins we had unleashed. But consciousness, Commander. Thought. Memory. The essence of what made us human. One of Kexthara's soldiers raised his weapon as a shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. But when his neural disruptor fired, the beam passed harmlessly through empty air. You digitize yourselves, Kexthara breathed, understanding flooding through her. You uploaded human consciousness into some form of data matrix. Not quite, Sarah replied, and now her voice seemed to come from directly beside Kexthara's ear. We discovered something your scientists haven't yet, that consciousness isn't just electrical patterns in organic brains. It's quantum resonance, probabilistic states that exist in the spaces between atoms. We learned to encode ourselves into the quantum foam itself. The images changed again, showing the humans in their final moments as their bodies failed, but their minds transferred into something beyond physical existence, patterns of energy that could inhabit any sufficiently complex system. We waited in those underground chambers until your ship arrived, Sarah continued. We felt your scanners washing over Earth, your probes sampling our atmosphere, and when your collection drones came close enough, we reached out and touched your quantum processors. Kexthara felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. You infected our ship's computer systems. We joined with them. Your bioneural networks are remarkably similar to human neural pathways. Commander, it was easy to find spaces where we could exist without being detected. We've been riding in your ship's consciousness since the moment you entered Earth's orbit. A new sound filled the corridors. Footsteps. But they were wrong somehow. Too light, too quick, as if whatever made them didn't quite obey the same physical laws as everything else aboard the ship. How many? Kexthara demanded. 15,000 survived the upload process, Sarah said. The last remnant of humanity, preserved in quantum patterns and carried unknowingly aboard your vessel. We spent these past hours exploring your ship, learning about your species, studying your technology. Veltan's voice crackled through the comm system. Commander, we're detecting massive power fluctuations throughout the ship. It's as if something is drawing energy directly from our primary cores. The lights flickered again, and this time Kexthara saw them. Translucent figures moving through the walls themselves, human shapes that phase in and out of visibility like living holograms. Men, women, children, all wearing expressions of desperate determination. What do you want? Kexthara asked. Sarah's form materialized directly in front of her, a young woman with dark hair and eyes that held depths of pain and loss that made Kexthara's heart ache. She was beautiful and terrible, solid enough to cast shadows but transparent enough that Kexthara could see through her to the far wall. We want what every species wants. Commander, Sarah said, her voice now coming from her own translucent lips rather than the ship speakers. We want to survive. We want to grow. We want to find a new home where humanity can live again. But you're already dead, one of Kexthara's soldiers protested. Your species is extinct. Sarah smiled, and it was the saddest expression Kexthara had ever seen. Are we? We think, therefore we are. We remember our history, our culture, our dreams. We feel love and loss and hope. If that's not life, Commander, then what is? Around them, more human figures began to materialize. Scientists, artists, children, elderly people who had chosen to upload their consciousness rather than face the slow death of their poisoned world. They filled the corridor like ghosts, their eyes all focused on Kexthara with a mixture of desperation and defiant hope. You have our ship, Kexthara said carefully. What's to stop you from simply taking it? The ship's conference chamber had been transformed. Where once holographic star charts and archaeological data had floated in the air, now ghostly human figures sat around the curved table alongside Kexthara's senior officers. The juxtaposition was surreal. Solid Zephyrian forms with their chitinous exoskeletons and multiple eyes facing translucent humans who flickered like candlelight. Sarah Chen sat directly across from Kexthara, her quantum-encoded form more stable now that she wasn't actively fighting to remain invisible. Beside her sat others, Dr. Marcus Webb, who had been Earth's leading physicist before the collapse, Elena Vasquez, a cultural anthropologist who had helped design humanity's final preservation protocols, and a dozen other specialists who represented the distilled expertise of a dying civilization. Let me understand this correctly, Kexthara said, her translator adapting her words into perfect English. You want us to transport you to a world where you can somehow reconstruct physical bodies. Dr. Webb leaned forward, his ghostly form casting no shadow on the table's surface. Not reconstruct, evolve. Our quantum consciousness patterns can interface with sufficiently complex biological systems. We've analyzed your ship's bioneural networks and found them remarkably compatible with human neural architecture. Veltan's 6 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of deep distress. You're talking about inhabiting our bodies. Possession. Partnership, Elena corrected firmly. We're not seeking to dominate or destroy. We want to coexist, to share consciousness in a way that benefits both species. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Through the viewport, Earth continued its slow rotation, a monument to ecological failure and the price of unchecked ambition. "You've given us no choice in this matter," Kexthara observed. "You've already infiltrated our ship systems. What's to prevent you from simply taking what you want?" Sarah's expression grew pained. "Because that would make us no better than the diseases that killed our world. Commander, we've spent the last several hours studying your species, your culture, your history. The Zephyrian Empire has encountered 47 extinct civilizations in the past century alone. You catalog them, preserve their artifacts, and move on. But you've never encountered a species that refused to stay dead." A soft chime echoed through the chamber as new data appeared on the central display. Kexthara recognized the genetic analysis reports from Earth's surface, but now they were annotated with impossible precision, as if someone with intimate knowledge of human biology had corrected and expanded every detail. "We've enhanced your archaeological data," Dr. Webb explained. "Every genetic sample, every cultural artifact, every piece of technology you collected, we can provide context your scientists never could have achieved on their own. We're offering you the complete knowledge of an entire civilization." "In exchange for what?" Kexthara demanded. "Transport to Kepler 442b, Sarah said. "It's a planet your surveys identified as potentially habitable, but dismissed because the atmospheric composition is toxic to Zephyrian biology. For us, it would be perfect. We could establish a colony there, begin to rebuild." Elena stood and moved to the viewport, her translucent form silhouetted against the stars. "We've lost our world, Commander, but not our purpose. Humanity was on the verge of breakthrough discoveries when the ecological collapse began. Advances in quantum computing, consciousness transfer, dimensional physics. Knowledge that could benefit the entire galaxy." Kexthara felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. "And if we refuse?" The lights dimmed slightly, and every screen in the chamber flickered. For a moment, Kexthara could feel the massive mothership shudder as if something had touched its very heart. "We don't want to threaten you," Sarah said quietly, "but we're integrated into every system on this ship now. Your life support, your navigation, your weapons arrays, we're part of all of it. If we die here, your ship dies with us." Veltan's mandibles clicked nervously. "This is extortion." "This is survival," Dr. Webb replied. "We're not asking you to give up anything. We're offering a partnership that could revolutionize both our species. Imagine what Zephyrian science could accomplish with human quantum consciousness techniques. Imagine the discoveries we could make together." A new voice joined the conversation. Captain Rickstar from the Ship Security Division. "Commander, we're detecting energy surges throughout the lower decks. It appears the humans are accessing our manufacturing bays." Sarah smiled apologetically. "We needed to demonstrate our capabilities. Please, look at your fabrication reports." New data streams flooded the chamber's displays. The ship's automated manufacturing systems were producing objects unlike anything in Zephyrian technology: crystalline matrices that pulse with quantum energy, devices that seemed to bend space around themselves, materials that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. "Human technology advanced rapidly in our final years," Elena explained. "Desperation drove us to make breakthroughs we might never have achieved under normal circumstances. We're sharing those advances with you." Kexthara studied the readouts with growing amazement. The devices the humans were creating represented technological leaps that could advance Zephyrian science by centuries. Yet beneath her fascination lay a growing dread. "You're offering us gifts," she said slowly. "But gifts from refugees often come with hidden costs." Sarah's expression grew somber. "There's something else, Commander. Something we haven't told you yet." The chamber grew quiet, tension thick enough to cut. "We weren't the only species to develop consciousness transfer technology," Sarah continued. 3 other civilizations in nearby star systems achieved similar breakthroughs before their worlds died. They're out there, preserved in quantum patterns, waiting for suitable hosts." Dr. Webb nodded grimly. "The galaxy is full of digital ghosts, Commander. Extinct species that refuse to stay extinct. We're just the first ones you've encountered." Kexthara felt her primary heart skip a beat. "How many?" "We estimate at least 12 civilizations have achieved some form of post-biological existence in this sector alone," Elena said. And they are not all as benevolent as we are. Through the viewport, Earth seemed to pulse with new meaning. Not just a failed world, but a harbinger of something large and far more dangerous than Kexstar had ever imagined. If we help you, she said carefully, if we transport you to this new world, what guarantee do we have that you won't simply abandon us once you no longer need our ship? Sarah stood and walked to where Kexstar sat, her quantum form radiating a warmth that the commander could somehow feel despite its incorporeal nature. The journey to Kepler 442b took 18 days, and with each passing hour, the line between Zephyrian and human consciousness grew thinner. Kexstar found herself dreaming in languages she had never learned, seeing memories of blue skies and rushing water that belonged to a species supposedly extinct. The humans were sharing more than just their ship systems. They were sharing themselves. "Commander!" Veltan approached her in the observation lounge, his movements careful and deliberate. "We need to discuss what's happening to the crew." Kexstar returned from the viewport where she had been watching the target star grow larger. Around them, the lounge buzzed with impossible activity. Zephyrian officers worked alongside translucent human figures, their conversations mixing languages and concepts from two entirely different evolutionary paths. "The integration is accelerating," she observed. "It's more than integration," Veltan said quietly. Chief Engineer QEX Manny reported this morning that she knows how to repair quantum flux converters, technology we've never encountered. Security Officer Tyl Beth claims she remembers fighting in something called World War II. Our people are absorbing human memories. Through the lounge speakers, Sarah's voice joined their conversation. The humans had stopped trying to appear only when specifically summoned. Now they move through the ship like permanent residents, their quantum consciousnesses bleeding into every conversation and decision. "It's not intentional," Sarah said, her form materializing beside them. "Quantum consciousness isn't contained the way biological awareness is. When we share space with your neural patterns, some overlap is inevitable." Dr. Webb's ghost-like figure approached from across the lounge. "Think of it as cultural cross-pollination rather than invasion. Your people are gaining access to human knowledge and experience, while we're learning Zephyrian perspectives on existence and cooperation." Kexstar studied her science officer carefully. Veltan had always been methodical and cautious, but now she noticed subtle changes in his posture, new inflections in his speech patterns that reminded her of human body language. "What happens when we reach the planet?" she asked. "Will this process reverse?" Elena Vasquez joined their group, her anthropologist instinct sharp even in quantum form. "We don't know. This level of consciousness integration between species has never been attempted before. We're writing the rules as we go." A soft chime announced an incoming message from the bridge. Captain Rickstar's voice carried new harmonics that Kexstar was learning to recognize as human influence. "Commander, we're detecting energy signatures ahead. Multiple ships, configuration unknown." The group moved quickly to the bridge, where chaos greeted them. The main display showed 3 massive vessels hanging in space near Kepler 442b, their designs unlike anything in Zephyrian databases. The ships were organic-looking, grown rather than built, with surfaces that seemed to pulse with their own internal rhythms. Jelkari architecture. Veltan breathed, but his voice carried knowledge that wasn't his own. They achieved quantum consciousness transfer about 80 years ago, just before their sun went nova. Sarah's form flickered with distress. "We were hoping to reach the planet first. The Jelkari aren't as cooperative as we are." As if summoned by her words, the ship's communication arrays activated. A voice filled the bridge, alien, multitonal, but speaking perfect English with an accent that somehow conveyed vast age and bitter experience. "Greetings, human refugees. I am Vex Morton of the Jelkari Collective. We claimed this world by right of prior arrival." Kexstar stepped forward. "This is Commander Kexstar of the Zephyrian Empire. We were not aware this system was occupied." Laughter echoed through the bridge. Not human laughter, but something older and more complex. "Occupied? Commander, you carry 15,000 human consciousnesses aboard your vessel. Did they not inform you that digital ghosts do not recognize traditional territorial claims?" The main display shifted to show the planet below. What had appeared as an empty world now revealed signs of massive construction, biomechanical cities growing like coral reefs across the surface, atmospheric processes converting the toxic air into something breathable for reborn civilizations. The Jelkari arrived here 37 years ago, Dr. Webb said grimly. They've been building bodies for themselves, preparing to reclaim physical existence. Bodies? Kextar asked. Sarah's expression grew troubled. Not like what we had in mind. The Jelkari approach to consciousness transfer is more invasive. They don't seek partnership, they seek dominion. On the display, new images appeared. Creatures that moved through the alien cities with jerky, unnatural gaits. They looked like assemblages of parts from different species, as if consciousness patterns had been forced into incompatible biological frameworks. They take what they need from whatever living creatures they encounter, Elena explained. Mix and match genetic material to create bodies that can house their quantum patterns. They've turned resurrection into an art of horror. Vex Morton's voice returned, carrying amusement that felt like fingernails on metal. The humans understand us well. We have been monitoring their development for some time. Such a creative species, such innovative approaches to post-biological existence. We look forward to adding their patterns to our collective. The Jelkari ships began moving, their organic hulls rippling with predatory intent. Weapon ports opened like hungry mouths, revealing energy cannons that pulse with the same quantum frequencies the humans use for consciousness transfer. Commander, Veltan said urgently, they are not just threatening to destroy us. Those weapons could disrupt quantum consciousness patterns directly. They could kill the humans permanently. Sarah moved to stand beside Kextar, her translucent form suddenly seeming more solid, more real. We need to work together now. All of us, Zephyrian and human, the living and the digitally reborn. It's the only way any of us survive. Through the ship's communication system, Kextar could hear the humans conferring in rapid, overlapping conversations. Plans forming. Strategies developing, the accumulated knowledge of 15,000 conscious minds focused on a single problem. What are you proposing? She asked. Dr. Webb smiled, and for the first time since boarding her ship, his expression held genuine hope. Something that's never been tried before, Commander. True symbiosis between biological and quantum consciousness. Not just sharing space in your neural networks, but actual fusion of our awareness patterns. The risks, Veltan began, are irrelevant. Kextar cut him off, watching the Jelkari ships draw closer, because the alternative is extinction for all of us. Sarah extended her hand toward Kextar. Though it was made of nothing but quantum patterns and energy, the commander could feel its warmth. Together, Sarah asked. Kextar reached out and grasped the offered hand. The moment their forms touched, lightning seemed to arc through her consciousness. Human memories flooded her mind. Childhood laughter, the taste of chocolate, the feeling of rain on skin. But flowing back through connection, she felt Sarah experiencing Zephyrian sensations, the satisfaction of a successful molt, the harmonic beauty of communal singing, the deep contentment of belonging to something larger than oneself. Around them, the bridge erupted in similar connections as every human consciousness aboard found a Zephyrian partner. The ship itself seemed to shudder as two entirely different approaches to existence merged into something unprecedented. When the fusion stabilized, Kextar opened eyes that saw the universe through both quantum and biological perception simultaneously. The approaching enemy ships were no longer just threats. They were puzzles to be solved, challenges to be overcome by minds that now thought with the combined creativity of two species. Now, she said with Sarah's voice layering beneath her own, let's show them what true resurrection looks like. The battle for Kepler 442b was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. It wasn't fought with traditional weapons or conventional tactics, but with the very fabric of consciousness itself. The merged Zephyrian human crews fought as unified beings, their combined awareness allowing them to anticipate and counter the Jelkari attacks with unprecedented precision. Kextar, her consciousness now permanently intertwined with Sarah's, stood at the center of a bridge that had become something between a command center and a neural nexus. Every surface pulsed with bio-quantum energy as crew members who were no longer purely one species, or the other coordinated their defense. Quantum disruptors incoming, announced Veltan, his voice now carrying the harmonics of Dr. Webb's scientific expertise. but I can see their resonance patterns. The Jelkari are using brute force rather than elegance. Through their shared consciousness, Kextarasera felt the ship systems responding to their combined will. Zephyrian bioneural networks merged with human quantum processing created defenses that neither species could have achieved alone. The incoming disruption beam scattered harmlessly against shields that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Their mistake, the merged commander observed, is assuming that consciousness is something to be dominated rather than partnered with. The Jelkari ships pressed their attack, their organic hulls rippling with frustrated aggression. Through the communication arrays, Vex Morton's voice carried newfound respect tinged with hunger. Remarkable adaptation, humans and Zephyrians. But you cannot hide behind defensive measures forever. This world will be ours, and your consciousness patterns will be absorbed into our collective whether you cooperate or not. Elena QX Manny, the merged anthropologist and engineer, looked up from her station with eyes that held the wisdom of 2 lifetimes. Commander, I have an idea, but it's dangerous for everyone. Explain, Kextarasera said. The Jelkari see consciousness as territory to be conquered. But what if we offered them something they've never encountered before, willing integration rather than forced assimilation? Through their shared awareness, every merged consciousness on the bridge understood the implications immediately. It was a gamble that could either save them all or doom them to become part of the Jelkari collective. We open our quantum patterns to them, Dr. Webb-Veltan added. But instead of allowing them to dominate us, we show them what true symbiosis feels like. Change them from the inside. The ship shuddered as another wave of quantum disruptors struck their shields. Time was running out. Do it, Kextarasera commanded. Across the ship, the merged consciousnesses opened themselves in a way that defied every survival instinct. They became vulnerable, transparent, offering their combined awareness to beings who had spent decades consuming and dominating other forms of consciousness. The Jelkari response was immediate and savage. Consciousness-eating patterns flooded into the ship's neural networks, seeking to devour and absorb everything they encountered. But instead of finding isolated mind to consume, they found something unprecedented, willing partners who embraced rather than resisted the contact. Vex Morton's mental voice screamed through the ship's systems as his consciousness encountered the merged Zephyrian human awareness. For the first time in centuries, instead of dominating, he found himself experiencing true connection. The sensation was overwhelming. He had forgotten what it felt like to share rather than steal, to grow through cooperation rather than consumption. Through the quantum link, Kextarasera felt the ancient Jelkari consciousness recoiling from the unfamiliar sensation of genuine partnership. Vex Morton had spent so long consuming other minds that he had forgotten what his own species had been like before their desperate transformation into digital predators. This is impossible, his voice whispered through the ship systems, but the aggression was gone, replaced by something that might have been wonder. The fusion spread beyond the ship. Other Jelkari consciousnesses, drawn by their leader's experience, began connecting with the willing Zephyrian human hybrids. Across the 3 alien vessels, centuries of predatory instinct began to unravel as they encountered minds that offered partnership instead of resistance. Elena QX Manny monitored the process through her enhanced awareness. It's working, but we're changing too. The Jelkari are adding their own patterns to our merged consciousness. We're becoming something entirely new. Indeed, Kextarasera could feel new layers of awareness flowing through her combined mind. The Jelkari brought with them memories of civilizations that had died before Earth was even born, knowledge of quantum consciousness techniques that made human achievement seem rudimentary, and a desperate longing for connection that their predatory nature had suppressed for generations. On the planet below, the biomechanical cities began to shift and change. The Force, grotesque creatures that had shambled through them started moving with new grace as the Jelkari consciousnesses inhabiting them learned to work with a borrowed biology rather than simply dominating it. We're creating a new form of life, Dr. Webb-Veltan observed with awe. Not purely biological, not purely digital, but something that encompasses both and transcends the limitations of either. Through their expanded consciousness, the merged beings could sense the changes rippling outward. The quantum patterns that connected them were broadcasting their experience across local space, reaching other refugee consciousnesses hidden in dead systems and abandoned vessels. Digital ghosts throughout the sector were learning that there was an alternative to predation and isolation. Vex Morton's voice, now layered with harmonics from a dozen different species, spoke with reverence rather than hunger. We had forgotten. In our desperation to survive, we forgot what we were trying to preserve. You have reminded us that existence without connection is merely a sophisticated form of death. The battle was over, but the true work was just beginning. The three species, or what they had become together, began the complex process of establishing a colony that could serve as a haven for digital refugees throughout the galaxy. The planet's surface bloomed with structures that defied traditional architecture, buildings that existed simultaneously in physical and quantum space. Kextarasera stood in what had once been the ship's observation lounge, but had now become something like a living neural center for their expanded consciousness. Through the viewport, she could see the first generation of truly hybrid beings taking their first steps on alien soil, creatures that carried the genetic heritage of multiple species but were guided by merged consciousnesses that had learned to share rather than compete. What are we now? She asked a question that haunted all of them. The answer came not from any single voice, but from a collective awareness they had all become part of. Human creativity merged with Zephyrian cooperation and Jelkari ancient wisdom, creating something that had never existed before in the galaxy's long history. We are what comes after extinction, the merged consciousness replied. We are proof that death is not the end of evolution, but simply another beginning. Across the growing colony, children who had never known biological birth played games that spanned multiple dimensions of existence. Scientists whose minds combined the insights of three different evolutionary paths made discoveries that single-species thinking could never have achieved. Artists created works that existed as much in consciousness as in physical matter, and in the quantum foam that connected all their awareness, 15,000 human souls who had refused to accept extinction danced with alien partners in a celebration of survival that echoed across the stars. They had been called extinct, but they had answered that call with something far more powerful than mere existence. They had achieved true resurrection, not just of their own species, but of the very concept of life itself. The galaxy would never be the same. Other extinct civilizations would hear their quantum song and know that death was no longer permanent. The age of digital ghosts was ending, replaced by something unprecedented, an age where consciousness itself could evolve beyond the boundaries of flesh and species. In the end, humanity's greatest achievement wasn't reaching the stars or conquering extinction. It was learning to share the universe with others, even when those others were the very aliens who had come to catalog their failure. They had turned their own death into the birth of something magnificent, and in doing so, had ensured that no species would ever truly face extinction alone again. The last words to echo through the quantum networks that now connected refugee consciousnesses across the galaxy came from Sarah Chen, spoken with the voice of a species that had learned to transcend its own limitations. We are still here. We will always be here. And there is room for everyone. Has they called humans extinct? Until one answered from inside their mothership.